All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Robbie Hummel. The Goodman and Hummel podcast is back after a long hiatus. I thought it would be longer. I thought you'd be in Tokyo right now, Rob, but you are not, and instead you're getting absolutely crucified on Twitter. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the Getting Pummeled on Twitter club, because
I know you're a seasoned vet of that club, so I know you've got that down pat.
I really do, but it has not been the greatest month for you, Rob.
No, it has not.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's hard. You know, I have not watched any Olympics, and I love the Olympics, which is sad for me. You know, I love watching all the sports. I went to the Olympics in '96. My parents took us, but I have not watched 1 minute of the Olympic Games this year. You know, I really didn't think about what Twitter would be like until like a couple weeks after we didn't qualify. I was like, man, as the games get shown, this is going to get not good. And that was accurate. It has not been good. It's been very hard, actually. You know, you can't get away from it. I should just mute people, but you know.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. I responded to some random guy there, and I've never been somebody that would do that stuff. But I mean, he just made it so personal. So
again, welcome to the world of Twitter, because it gets so ugly.
No, it does. And the frustrating thing is even like, I think people that cover the sport or just basketball in general have been like, well, why did we send this group of guys? And like, what you fail to understand is this group of guys that, you know, outside of one that was supposed to go, are the best players in the 3-on-3 world. You know, we won the world championship in 2019. We beat everybody handily. We had one close game or two close games. So,
but it was a different team, correct? It was a different group than what we saw out there.
Different group, yeah. So Canyon Barry got hurt a day before we went, so we had to replace him. We did that with Joey King, who played in Minnesota, and that's not any. I mean, he doesn't know any of the plays. Like, we've been practiced together.
Totally different player.
Totally different player than Canyon. Canyon was a tough guy to replace, because in the USA pool of players, you have to take someone from your top 10 when you replace a guy, because you can't just go out and grab whoever. Like, you got to grab somebody from that's in the pool. And Canyon's a 6'7", 6'8", super athlete, much like his brothers, that has a super high basketball IQ and is an elite defender. And you could tell that we really missed him in that regard. And then we added Damo Jones, and Damon Huffman, who was on the World Cup team, did not make the team. So it was a different group than 2019. And certainly, like, you know, years pass and teams change. But, you know, it's frustrating for me that when you look back at it, the team that won did not get the opportunity to continue to win. So,
well, let's move forward to you getting absolutely abused by a 40-year-old in the post in the TBT.
You know what? Go to the box score. Go to the box score. Now, I will say this. This guy's name is Jeff Gibbs. He played at Otterbein. He still is playing professional basketball. He's 6'1". His wingspan has got to be like 7 foot. Because I don't know how I wasn't able to block this dude's shot. He has to weigh 270 pounds. He's got the biggest chest of any person I've ever seen in pro basketball. And they were ISOing him on me early and often last night, to the point where I was like, I've got to front this guy. I am getting exposed on the block. But then I thought he had like 30 points. I swear to God I did. I was talking to Ryan Smith after the game, who's our coach. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I just couldn't guard that guy. And he was like, dude, he had 11 points. It felt like 40. But I had 17. So, again, to my Twitter haters,
you know what? you're going to be saying the same thing when you and I go at it. I couldn't guard him. I'm going to put on a few more pounds, and I'm going to be Jeff Gibbs.
Let me tell you this. I could blow my knee out, both knees, and still kick your ass. I promise.
Let's hope we don't find that out. We don't need any more knee injuries, okay? We need you being able to, you know, produce for the field of 68 this year, okay? So
I could do that from my chair here. So whether I get hurt or not, I'm good to go.
No more injuries. I'm getting over an injury of my own. I had a bone bruise that
you
legitimately.
You get hurt at the Peach Jam?
No, I got hurt before that. I did. Listen, I got plenty of injury stories lately. One was about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I dove for a ball playing softball. And I swear to God, bone bruise, the thing blew up twice the size and went all the way like from like my hamstring all the way down through my toes. And it took like
bone bruise to your knee or where?
It was, you name it. It was my whole leg.
You had a ginormous bone bruise. All
ginormous. Like never before. So, okay, finally I'm feeling better. And I go to the Peach Jam and I'm walking out the other night. This is a great story. I'm walking out the other night. I feel something bite me. And I'm like, fuck, like what? I mean, it stung. Now I'm allergic to bees. Okay. I'm allergic to bees. Like 20 years ago.
You think that I'm soft and you.
I know. I shouldn't tell this story. But I'm gonna. So like 20 years ago, I got stung by a bee and nobody was home. I was on my way back in like a Jeep or something, got stung in my back. So I'm itchy as hell. I'm like on the bed, like rubbing my back against the bed. It's that itchy. So my wife is like, go to the hospital. Just go to the hospital. So I walk in and literally I walk in and they grab me. And I guess my eyes were like closed shut, completely swollen shut. And from then on, I need an EpiPen. Anyway, so fast forward, I get bitten and I'm like, oh shit. Like anytime I get bitten, I forgot the EpiPen.
Well, that's a responsible thing to do.
I know it wasn't very smart. Usually I have them, but they're expensive and you got to get them every year. It's just one of the, and I don't really travel with it.
Yeah,
like I'll throw it in a bag.
Why have that expense when you could just die? You know?
That's right. So I get bitten and I'm with Doster. We're walking out of the Peach Jam and I'm like trying to remain kind of cool, but like I'm worried. Like I could be dead in 15 minutes. I mean, legitimately could be dead in 15 minutes. So Doster could care less. Like legitimately not worried one bit.
Did you explain the severity of your allergy?
I think he just thinks that like, you know, if I die, he gets more of Field of 68. So no big deal. You know, it's a win-win for him. So we go and I get Benadryl. Just, you know, get some Benadryl. He doesn't even come in with me. He's just waiting outside of the car. So I could have died inside the grocery store. No big deal. I come back out. I'm like, you know, and we were going to meet Terrence Oglesby for dinner at this place right around the corner. So I dropped Oster off and I'm going to go to the University Medical Center. So I drop him off. I go to the University Medical Center and the place is jammed. It looks like a COVID unit when I walk in. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I check in and she's like, yeah, they'll call you in about 15 minutes. And I'm like, no, I could be dead in 15. Like, I still don't know. It's been about 20 minutes overall now. I'm like, no, somebody's got to make sure that it's not a beast thing where I'm going to die. And the thing is burning like hell. It is like burning out of control.
Where at? Where'd you get stung?
It's on the side. Like if I showed you right now how red this thing is.
Still?
No. Insanely red. Anyway, so I go in, guy comes over and I'm like, dude, like, can I get seen at least to see maybe the stinger's still in there, whatever you got to do. So he's like, give me a credit card. I'm like, oh, okay. He takes the credit card and he starts scraping. And he's like, maybe the stinger will come out. Well, it didn't come out.
But you can see it?
Huh?
You can see the stinger?
No, he couldn't even see it. It was red as hell, burning like hell. And then, you know, he's like, hey, yeah, they'll call you in a few minutes. Well, 15 minutes go by, 25 minutes go by. Everywhere you look, there's people like who look like, again, they're dealing with like a COVID mass unit at this point in Augusta, right? Downtown Augusta. And finally I go up to the desk and I'm like, you know, have they called me? Did I miss it? No, they're going to call you soon. So they call me. I walk in to the triage and she takes my, you know, first my weight, which damn, obviously I drank, I ate. I don't know what I did down there in Augusta.
Big week in Peace Jam.
Bad week. 225. I weigh more than you now, Hummel.
You guard Jeff Gibbs perhaps with that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm halfway there. To getting to Gibbs' weight, I think. So we go in and I'm like, And I heard people talking in the main room about like they were waiting 5-7 hours.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, can you see if you can just find the damn stinger and take that out at least? She's like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, well, what the hell? She's like, you're gonna have to go back out and they'll call you. I'm like, I went back up front. I'm like, I'm out. Like, don't charge me for this visit. All she did was take my weight. I'm fat. I know I'm fat. Like, that's all I learned here is that I'm fat and I gained pounds in Augusta. So let me get out. So I get out and call Doster, and I'm like, I'm going back to the room. And like, yeah, like saw him the next morning, like again, could have died in my sleep.
Did he check on you?
No, nothing. Zero.
Wow.
Zero.
Man, Doster. Not the guy you want in an emergency, apparently.
That's what it shows. That's what it shows. Rob Doster, not the guy you want if you need somebody. So anyway,
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you survived the Peach Jam.
I survived the Peach Jam, and I have a huge.
Was it a B, or do you know?
We don't even know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. No idea. But I have a bunch of medication that I'm supposed to take just in case. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, all right, let's get to it. After our woeful stories of how we both have failed miserably over the past month.
Been some struggles.
There have been some struggles. Let's talk about somebody else who's struggling. Greg Popovich in the Olympic team. Let's start there. And who do you put the blame on? Do you put it more on Pop, or do you put it on Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard and some of these other guys that aren't producing?
I mean, I think it's shared all the way around. The players have to play, and certainly the coaches have to coach the guys. But also, you got to pick a team in a way where you can build a team.
Yeah.
And look, like if we had the top 5, or if we did the top 12 guys in the NBA that are from the United States, and you have them play Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Steph Curry, this isn't a conversation because the gap is still pretty wide. But when you start taking, like the World Cup in 2019 for 5-on-5, that was what the D team of probably NBA players. Like, not that they're bad, but when you compare them to who the top 12 is going to be, yeah, it's totally different. Like JaVale McGee is on our Olympic team.
Keldon Johnson,
and again, not bad players. JaVale McGee has made himself a really good NBA player. He's had a terrific career when you look at where he has come from, and now he's a 3-time NBA champ and has now made a national team. That is an incredible career. But when you look at national teams of the past, it is Hall of Famers. Every spot, Hall of Famer, top to bottom. So, the talent isn't the same as what we're probably used to, but I think also you're now seeing that since the Dream Team in '92, these countries have heavily invested in basketball. And they have done a really good job of not only developing players, but developing chemistry and camaraderie. And these guys have grown up playing together.
Isn't there a pride, Rob? Don't you think there's more of a pride? You played in some of these countries. Not that we don't have pride. Not that, again, Kevin Durant doesn't have pride for his country. He does. Right. But isn't it a different level with some of these other guys?
Yeah, it probably is. And I think also, some of those guys might take the national team stuff not more seriously, but yeah, I guess.
Well, Luka said it. Didn't Luka say he'd rather win a gold medal than an NBA title?
Wow. I mean, yeah. And that probably isn't the case for all of our guys.
How about for any of our guys?
I just think that it's become such a foregone conclusion in most years that the U.S. is just going to win.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, of course we'll win the gold medal. Whereas these other countries, look at Spain. Like they go through their golden era, and it's kind of on the back end now. The Gasols are old. Ricky Rubio's getting up there. Like Rudy Fernandez is kind of on his way out. And you look at all these really good Spanish players. Those guys wanted it so bad. So bad. I mean, it would have been like legacy defining for them. But you look at like for LeBron and those guys, the Redeem team was certainly a big deal. And you could tell it's like, hey, we need to get ourselves back to what we are. But did it mean as much to LeBron to win that gold as it would have to some of those Spanish guys?
Probably not.
I mean, LeBron he's accomplished everything. He's already won a gold. It's just like probably not. We don't know. I mean, you wouldn't know unless you ask him, I guess. But the world is getting better, and we're not sending our best group. And
how about But how about not only not sending our best group, but again, you've got a bunch of dudes that are all scorers that can't all be scorers. They're all used to being the guy, and now you're asking Damian Lillard to be something he's not and never been, ever been.
No, I mean, building a team is a huge part of it. But like when you look at like the Redeem team and you hear the stories about Kobe Bryant showing up to camp in Vegas like 3 days early and going to Krzyzewski and being like, I'm not going to shoot in camp. I am only worried about defending. And that's an extreme example because he was like, dude, you need to shoot too. Because like you're,
Kobe,
one of the 7 greatest players of all time. But he was willing to do that and he was able to do that too. Whereas it's, Damian Lillard might be willing to, but is he as effective? Right. Like that's a big part of it. Like when you try to be something you're not, sometimes you're like, dude, I'm just not good at this. And that's not his fault. But you've got to be able to build a team and put together a group that can go out there and get the job done because we still should be winning, these games and playing at a high level. And right now we're just not. But I think it's a little bit on everybody. I think the U.S. has to kind of reevaluate how we do this. Because the world has definitely caught up.
I'm just glad Pop isn't on Twitter because Pop on Twitter would go back harder than you went back at that dude who was ripping on you.
Yes, he would.
Right?
Mine was weak. Pop would not hold back.
Pop would not stand for the Twitter slander. And listen, we'll see what happens. I still think they can end up winning gold, but they got a long way to go.
But I do think we need to refigure and revamp how we're doing this. There is no doubt about that.
Well, because even like Drew Holiday, I think he's actually a perfect guy for this group, right? But he just got there.
He just flew in from Milwaukee.
Right. He's tired.
That's not fair.
Right.
But he played great the other night, against France. He was good.
All right, let's get to the NBA draft Thursday. It's finally here. I feel like the NBA draft gets no juice because you got a week. Like you got a week after the NBA Finals,
Olympics, draft.
Olympics, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, right.
Right? Every day, Aaron Rodgers is something.
Hey, he's dominating the news cycle. It's impressive.
It's amazing.
And it's like it's the tidal wave of emotions.
Right.
I'm like, hey, I'm retiring. So no, I think I'm good for one more year. Impressive.
So, all right, let's start with the easy one. Is there anybody? Can you give me any case for Detroit taking anybody other than Cade Cunningham?
No,
you can't.
I don't think so. I just think that with their team, first of all, this is the first time they've had the number 1 pick since 1970.
It's crazy.
Pretty wild since they haven't been that good for a lot of. They certainly had their runs with the bad boys and then the Chauncey and Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace teams, but that's wild. They have to figure out what they want to do with Jeremy Grant. Do you want to keep him? Do you want to move him for younger players? You draft Killian Hayes last year, 7th. He plays 26 games. Yep. He was banged up. Sadiq Bey had a good year.
He did.
He averaged 12 a game. He shot 38% from 3. So you've got some young guys where you're like, can we move Jeremy Grant for pieces and for more of a young core? And that might be yes. But I just think that with Cade Cunningham, you're getting a guy that can not only score, he's a great passer, he can play pick and roll. Yep. I just think when you look at the draft and the other maybe tier 1 prospects, whether it's Jalen Green, if it's Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, whoever, I just think Cade Cunningham at the end of the day, you look at all the boxes he checks, it just makes so much sense for Detroit to draft him.
My biggest comparison with him is Luka.
Yeah.
And I know some people probably think I'm crazy, but the size is there. The ability to make people better is there. They're not great shooters.
The question would be, can he get Luka Doncic's footwork?
Right.
Because that allows him to do things where he's not athletically ultra gifted.
That's right.
But he can do things that not a lot of guys can do because he puts on a masterclass in terms
of what Cade's better than Luka at? On the defensive end.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's where he's better. But you're right. Luka is just so gifted in terms of using angles and using his footwork to be able to create space. And I mean, he's unbelievable at it. But I think Cade is clearly the number 1 pick. And then to me, the draft kind of gets interesting for Houston. If you're Houston, again, any of those top like 4 spots, you take the best player available. You don't really worry.
Their rosters are in such shambles.
Right. Just take the. And I'm going to probably go against what I just said with Cleveland, but what I am saying, like Houston, I know you have John Wall. It wouldn't matter to me if you
owe John Wall $90 million over the next 2 years.
It's insane. It's insane. So, like, if you believe Jalen Suggs is the best player on the board, you take him. I don't care if you have John Wall, you don't. You play them two together, which you can do at this point if you feel like he is the best guy. Do you feel like he's the best guy, or if you're Houston, are you going in a different direction?
I went Jalen Green just because I think the upside is the highest. He had a really good year in the G League,
Really
and you talked about John Wall. Eric Gordon's there for 3 more years. Does not matter. Yep. That's irrelevant. But Jalen Green's an elite athlete. He shot it well. He can score at all 3 levels. He shot 46 from the field, 36 from 3. You have to like the fact that his shooting has got better. It seems like every time you've seen him, if you've seen him kind of spread out, whether that's from high school to now a year in the G League, he seems like a mature kid. He's played against high-level competition. He's played against pros. So to me, I really like Jalen Suggs. I think he's a winner. But to me, Jalen Green makes the most sense, I think, for Houston at 2.
Yeah, I think he's got the highest upside.
Totally.
And that's where you probably say, hey, if we can get a wing that's 6'5", that's super athletic, that shot at 37 from 3, well, can he be a guy that you just put the ball in his hands and eventually he can be a bigger Donovan Mitchell type, right? Sure. And just make plays. He's not a point guard. He's never going to be. But Donovan Mitchell's not a point guard.
Right.
But you give him the ball and he's so athletic and, again, so difficult to guard and stay in front of. I didn't expect Jalen Green to do what he did in the bubble. But, again, he was terrific. I'm with you. I'd go Jalen Green there. But, man, I would think hard about going Jalen Suggs, even though they have John Wall and $91 million still owed to him. I mean,
2 years.
Insane. All right. Then you get to Cleveland. Kobe Altman. Cleveland's got, a decision here. To me, this is clearly a top 4 draft. I think there's a big gap after 4. A lot of people disagree with me. I've heard people calling it like a 5 or a 6-man draft. I think it's a clear 4. And that's where I think Cleveland and Toronto made out here, getting in that top 4, and neither could go wrong. Now, right. Cleveland has Colin Sexton. They have Darius Garland. It's a small backcourt. If you draft Jalen Suggs, who I think is a better – like, I would rather have Jalen Suggs than Evan Mobley, Rob. But I just don't think – I think then you have to make a move. You're forced to have to trade.
You have to trade him then.
And I just don't think his value is high enough.
Right.
That you're going to be able to get enough for him. You think he's worth more than everybody else does. So I would take Evan Mobley, again, going against what I said earlier, which is don't draft for position. I think it's close enough here that I would go Evan Mobley.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a perfect fit. You mentioned the guards, but think about if you take Mobley, the logjam of bigs you have.
Yeah.
Because now you've got Kevin Love, Jared Allen, who's got a qualifying offer out to him, and you have Larry Nance.
Right.
So, you've got a lot of bigs. But with that being said, I saw Evan Mobley at the NCAA tournament, and that dude has some abilities and some skills that, man, he is gifted, he's talented, he's long. He can do a lot of things. And the question for Evan Mobley, and you have talked about this, I think he might have said this to you, is how much does he like basketball? Yeah. And that's terrifying. Because when big guys don't like basketball,
what he said to me was
not like it, but just like I don't.
He flat out said he was like, when I was young, I didn't love basketball. Mm-hmm. Now again, can you grow to love basketball? Sure, you can. I think it's rare. I think usually either you love it.
You better have it. you better have. I just
not
don't
like my daughter. My daughter didn't love sports until 3 years ago. Now she does love it.
The switch got flipped. Yeah.
Right.
I do think that bigs that don't like to play or love to play can be really terrifying. But I do think that Evan Mobley has got a lot of ability. Defensively, he can be just an absolute monster. You can switch pick and roll. He can protect the rim. So I went Evan Mobley too, but I really went back and forth. And I thought the same thing that you did, where it's like, if you're going to draft Jalen Suggs, then you're going to have to get rid of Colin Sexton. Because I don't feel like they're doing that with Darius Garland. They're still
I think if you're Cleveland, you're going to try to increase their trade value as much as you can and almost get phony numbers with these guys, right? Like that's what you do with a lot of young players on these crappy teams is somebody's got to get numbers.
It's true. Somebody's got to score.
Correct. Even when you're losing by 30, somebody's going to get points. Somebody's going to get rebounds. Somebody's going to get assists. So, to me, you've got to somehow get, and I don't think Garland or Sexton have done enough to be able to land. Now, what I would do, and I don't know if I'm Toronto, if I'm Kobe Altman, I'm putting out signs, that I'm drafting Mobley and Suggs. I want Toronto to feel like they have to move up because they want to get their guy, right? Whether it's Suggs or Mobley, maybe if you're Cleveland, you can drop down one and say, you know what, we'll flip with you.
Right.
So you can get your guy. We don't care.
Yeah, right. Either way.
We don't care.
Well, I would say, certainly for Toronto right now, that's the position they're in. If Cleveland's going to draft Evan Mobley, then it has to be Jalen Suggs. And honestly, Suggs, to me, fits really well in Toronto at 4 because you're losing Kyle Lowry. You have Fred Van Vliet.
Yes. Good job.
But you need that point guard of the future. Yeah. And when you look at what Jalen Suggs was able to accomplish in 1 year, didn't shoot the ball great, did have some turnover issues as a freshman, but man, that dude, he wins. He makes huge plays. The shot at the Final Four is enough to be said with that. And his measurables are great. I mean, he is an elite athlete. At 6'4", that dude can move. So I think, it's like you said, whoever falls to them at 4, great.
Yeah, listen, I think you can make a clear case that Jalen Suggs could or should be the number 2 pick. And nobody would argue with that. Nobody. He's that talented. I think he has a potential to be a top 5 point guard in the NBA at some point in his career. I think he's that talented. Again, he's got to get his shot better. Yeah. And he's got to take care of the ball. But some of the things that he sees.
Totally. And that's what you're going to get that, though, with elite passers. They're going to turn it over because they're taking chances. And
it's like John Morant.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Same thing. I mean, yeah. All right. So then we said at 2, it gets interesting. I think at 5, it gets even more interesting because to me, I don't think anybody has any clue what to do there. I'm not as big a Jonathan Kuminga fan as many are. And I've said this since day one that I felt like there were 4 guys and then a big gap. And I would not take Kuminga if I'm the Orlando Magic and Jeff Weltman. I wouldn't. I think, to me, if I'm going a guy who's defensive minded, which I don't want to go from Orlando. I don't want to. I think they need offense. I think, first of all, they need to get the guy. See, I might go Bouknight. Personally, I know it's a reach. I'd probably try to move down if I could.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if I'm Orlando, Scotty Barnes, Jonathan Kuminga, even Davion Mitchell, like they're all defensive-minded dudes that aren't great offensive players. James Bouknight, to me, has the chance to be, a 16, 18 point a game guy. Those 3 guys I mentioned, do not.
Right. Yeah, this is tough. And you look at Orlando, they're in the best position to trade up, but you don't feel like anybody's going to want to trade down like to their picks.
No.
You have 5 and 8 for them. I agree with Kuminga. I think he's really raw. He's an elite athlete, but I went between Bouknight and Scotty Barnes, and I went Barnes.
Yeah.
Just because of the Florida deal, because he's got good size and he can facilitate. Not a great shooter. And
it's fine because at 8, you could be saying to yourself, hey, you know what? Bouknight's still going to be there for us.
You totally could. So I went with Barnes. He's a really, really good defender.
Great defender.
He can guard almost every position except for probably the 5. If they're small, he could do that too. If you get Jonathan Isaac back from injury, you have to think that's a pretty formidable defensive lineup right there. But you're right. They need to get guys who can make shots.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, same thing with Oklahoma City a little bit, right? Who's at 6? You're talking Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, not a great offensive player. Like,
and
he's
a bunch
gotten
of
better.
roster turnover, like roster chaos with you. Assume
Right.
Kemba Walker's getting traded.
Yeah, they're going to try to trade Kemba at some point, but I don't think you're going to be able to trade him with that contract right away. Baisley's decent, So like for me, if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm also looking at a guy who could score, a guy who could shoot it.
Wait, you went Bouknight Orlando, and I went Barnes. So Bouknight's off the table for OKC for you.
Yeah, I don't know what you do. I mean, honestly, I don't know what you do here. I try to trade if I'm Presti, and again, like. I know he's got 1 million draft picks. Why not get more? I mean, Sam Presti probably sleeps with posters of all his draft picks.
The lottery ball is right next to his bed.
Yeah, I mean, like what are we doing here?
So Sam Presti likes my mock draft here a lot better than yours because he can still take Bouknight.
100%. Oh, I think he's thrilled.
Yeah,
he's thrilled if he's
got you. Pair him with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's got great size. Did you see his workout at the combine? It's become like this mythical.
No.
The word is that James Bouknight had this mythical shooting performance at the combine.
Really?
It's like driven his stock.
I love Bouknight. I love him.
I can't believe you haven't heard about this.
No, I haven't heard.
As anybody.
Yeah, I have not heard about it. I have not at all.
You've been at the Peace Jam getting bee stings too much. Apparently.
Pretty much the problem. I'm out of it right now. Completely out of it between,
who you got Golden State at 7?
So Golden State at 7. I have Davion Mitchell.
Really? I mean, I guess they're trying to win now. So
I mean, you could give me. I think Scotty Barnes is still on the board for me, so I'll take Scotty Barnes. I guess.
All right.
I'll take Scotty, but Scotty's like Draymond 2.0.
Yeah, he is. I went Moses Moody, which I don't know.
I like that one.
Just because he can score within the flow of an offense. I think he's a smart kid. I think he plays with a high understanding of what's going on. He'll pass. He's not going to need to necessarily feel like he's got to create all the time. And I don't think he wants to. But he shot it, 36% from 3 last year. If you're trying to win now, I think the Warriors are obviously trying to shop the pick. I think if they can, they'll trade their picks and get veterans in there. But if you can't,
Moody can do this and he can guard.
Right. So I think Moody's
great for him.
I think he's a good pick for them.
I love that pick.
The crazy thing is Kuminga is still on the board, and it's just he's the guy that's fallen.
Yeah, Kuminga for me. If I'm taking Bouknight at 5 for Orlando, I'm taking Kuminga at 8. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Kuminga at 8 for Orlando. To me, I take my score at 5 and wait and get one of Barnes or Kuminga. Or Davion Mitchell.
That's interesting. So I went at 8, Franz Wagner. And we talked about how they need guys that can score.
Yeah.
I think he can shoot it better than he has. I really believe that. Everything that we heard coming out of Ann Arbor was that, man, he's shooting the ball great. Freshman year breaks his hand. All right, so that's out the window. Last year, he improved a little bit, but, 34% still is not great. But I just think that he still can shoot the ball better. He's a big-time defender. He's got great size. So I thought Franz Wagner made a lot of sense, but I'm also banking on the fact that I really think he's going to eventually make shots.
Yeah.
And who knows if he will.
I like 9, Sacramento. I would go Moses Moody there. Okay. I think, again, I don't know how long Buddy Hield is built for Sacramento. You keep hearing the trade rumors.
Right.
They need shooters around De'Aaron Fox. Halliburton can come in. Obviously, he can shoot it, but Moody's a guy who can guard and really, really space a court. So I like him at 9.
My last 2 picks, you might clown. I might be reaching hard here. I want Kai Jones.
I like Kai Jones.
I think he has so much upside.
Yep.
You can play him at the 4 or the 5. He can really handle it, and then he can just anchor your defense.
Yeah.
I think that the way he plays with a motor. I really liked Kai Jones this year. I honestly really liked Texas this year, and then they, lost to Abilene Christian. But I went Kai Jones at 9 for Sacramento.
Yeah, and I would probably go Kai Jones at 10 for New Orleans because.
Wait, but isn't that Memphis though?
Did they trade?
because Valanciunas is going to.
Oh, right. That was today.
Memphis.
Yeah. So Memphis, I'll still go Kai Jones at 10. I'll still go Kai Jones. I just think his potential is
I agree.
So high. 6'11", can shoot it. He's the perfect kind of face-up four-man that everybody wants right now, and scratching the surface of what he can become.
Yep, I'd be okay with that. You might hate this pick too. I went Corey Kispert at 10. Just because I just think from a needs perspective, you keep giving Ja Morant space to play. And if Kispert's the best shooter in the draft, Memphis shot – they were 20th in the NBA in three-point shooting, 35%. So, Kispert shot 44. You just give him guys that can make shots. And that may very well be a pick where you're like, dude, you can't take him at 10. Maybe you trade down and get him, but I don't know. So I just thought the team need there is so strong with what Ja Morant does well.
All right. So who is the guy in the draft, the biggest sleeper, the most undervalued guy that, again, most people don't have going nearly as high as you have them going? Who do you love?
I mean, I guess the obvious choice for me has got to be Jalen Suggs, because I have him going at 4, and he could easily be at 2. But then,
later on,
if you're talking about later on, I'll go Kai Jones.
Okay.
I think Kai Jones.
Give me one further down.
Oh my God, how far you want me to go?
I want to go one further down, like if I said, if I went Brandon Boston.
Okay, so
something like that. I want somebody that, Josh Christopher.
All right, hold on.
David Johnson.
Let me pull up a list of players here so I can go far enough down the list here for you.
Like everybody loves Chris Duarte now. That's the hot one.
He has become
yes.
He certainly has become a hot name. Do you want me to go like Luka Garza? Is that far enough down for you?
Well, yeah, but what do you think Luka Garza is going to be in the league?
I mean, if he can make shots, he could be a stretch
5. Stretch 5?
Yeah. All right.
Who everybody likes too?
I mean,
Bones Highland is moving up.
Yeah.
From VCU.
I'm going to go, you know what? This will be deep for you. I'm going to go Joe Wieskamp.
I like that one. I like that one.
Bias there, but I think he's a good athlete. I think he can make shots.
Yep.
And I think that he's a guy that can fit in a lot of different places and be productive. And I would honestly say he kind of reminds me a little bit of Kevin Huerter.
I'm a fan.
And he's been very effective in that role too.
No, I'm a fan. Who's the guy you're worried about the most? Who's the guy that, people have going higher that you're just like, eh?
This is easy because we didn't take him in the lottery, and it's got to be Kuminga. I mean, he's gone from like a consensus top 5 pick to where we didn't even. I mean, that's an easy decision for.
I'm worried about him. I'm just worried about him. I saw him playing.
I'm also leery though of this question because we were all on the LaMelo.
We screwed up last year.
And for all the LaMelo fans out there, we're sorry.
Yeah, we didn't like him for different reasons, I think.
I was blinded by my dislike of his father.
Yeah, well, listen, maybe it was the same reason. Because you didn't have to, deal with his father like I did, okay?
Sure.
I guess I was blinded by his immaturity when I was around him.
Yeah.
That was my biggest thing is I felt like he was never going to guard a tree. Didn't want to guard, and the shot was broke. And I love the obviously the court vision and all that and the passing ability, but I just didn't think he was mature enough to figure it out this quickly. But I give him credit. The guy that here's the guy that I want to get your take on. All right. Because I still think he should go higher than people have him projected. Tell me why Io is a guy that some people don't even have going like in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, a guy that produced at a high level in college. I guess you just wonder, like, everybody's his size in the NBA. So when he's getting downhill on these handoffs and these ball screens, and he's just bullying his way to the rim, because he would do that. He would just play bully ball. Man, try to play bully ball with some of these guards that are tanks, right? With Jeff Gibbs-like bodies.
You're going to have nightmares of Jeff Gibbs.
This dude's just still got me on the block just going to town, dude. But no, everybody is that big. and everybody is strong and everybody's athletic. And
he shot it well, though, Rob. The one area that everybody wanted to see with Io that they were ripping on early was can't shoot it, can't shoot it, can't shoot it. He shot like 39% from three last year.
I know.
So he answered that bell.
He did, and certainly answered that question. The NBA draft is amazing to me because it's all about momentum. Like guys like Chris Duarte is just riding this wave right now.
Yes.
Book Knight is riding this wave.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Io hasn't got there. You wonder how he's worked out for some of these teams. You also wonder if maybe he had a couple good workouts and those teams are trying to keep him quiet, and he will go at like 12 or 13 or wherever. But I think that the biggest concern I have with Io DeSumo is that he's going to see a greater caliber of athlete and really just bigger bodies at this level. But you're right. He did exactly what they said, go back to school and shoot the ball better. Right. And he did that.
Who are you rooting for the most in this draft? Who's the player that you like the most? I'll give you mine. I'll buy you a few seconds here. Mine is clearly Jared Butler. Yeah. It's not even close. I mean, as good a kid as there were some significant medical concerns where he wasn't cleared until recently by the NBA. And I wasn't sure. And I know all the specifics of this. I'm not going to say them on this pod, but I wasn't sure he was ever going to be cleared by the NBA.
That's a good one. I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
I'm going to go for my first one, Jericho Sims, because I think that his improvement is really amazing to see. Yeah. I mean, those videos of him putting his chin on the rim.
He's a freak.
He's so athletic, dude. I just think that he'd be a really good story of somebody who's kind of like flown under the radar, really quiet kid, very unassuming, and now he's put himself in the position to get drafted. And then I've always really liked Isaiah Liver's game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would assume he'll get drafted in the second round. He's got good size. He can make shots, but I've always been a fan from afar. So I will go with those two guys.
All right. Well, listen, we've covered a lot of ground from
these things to the draft. Incredible.
Don't forget about your on the court antics. All right, let's not forget about that. We cannot just gloss over that.
I have to give props to Evan Turner last night. He tweeted, and I got back to the locker room after this game last night. He tweeted, and Evan was my roommate in Belgrade, and we played against each other a ton. So I have a good relationship with him, but he is the biggest trash talker ever. He tweeted when Gibbs was giving me buckets. He goes, "At Robbie Hummel, do you even lift weights anymore?" And then in the third quarter, I had 10 quick points. And it must have happened really fast because there was another tweet right after it. Oh, never mind. You're good. So I thought that was funny, even in defeat in my TBT debut last night.
You know what I'm hoping? Maybe the next podcast we do, maybe we're going to bring on Jeff Gibbs. I think we need to do that.
You know what? If it's good for the pod, I'm willing.
You're in? You're in. All right. Well, the next pod will be a full recap of the NBA draft. So we will do that maybe even later this week, Rob. This might be a twice a week pod. I don't know if you can handle that. You've been a little lazy lately.
I have not been on the pod grind like you have.
You're back, though. You're back, right?
Carried the name, image, and likeness stuff, though. I mean, that's your reporter. That's your stuff.
I know. Listen. I got to hold it down for us. We can't let the pod go away. So I gotta make sure you make enough money here. That you don't have to be in the TBT again.
I'm asking for a raise this year from Field of 68. These conditions I've been working under here are not.
Well, listen,
my boss is just a guy that doesn't care about his employees.
Right. He almost left me for dead. I mean, think about this. I could be dead right now, and Rob Doster would have no idea. Right now, stuck in the Augusta Marriott courtyard, on the floor, dying right now of a bee sting. But
I need to reevaluate my options here. There's some good ones out there, though. There's some real good ones of people that run good podcasts.
That's very true. All right, we'll see you next week. Goodman and Hummel pod. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for Rob coming back. And hit the weights, Rob. Hit the weights.
Nice ending.